Okay, these are my an essay concerning human understanding by John Locke notes. And I enjoy Locke, but as I continue to read him, he becomes more and more difficult to understand, as I probably fail to give him due attention. But I think I understood a lot of what he said, so there we go. And here I have a lot of ideas for synthesis, because he's definitely interacting with a lot of the books that we've read up to this point. I don't have as clear ideas about core idea. What I want to say about the core idea is that it's about knowledge. Knowledge is not an indefinitely growing thing. Knowledge comes through the senses or through reflection, which means there's no knowledge of God other than that it really exists, which is far from the God of Jacob, Abraham, and Isaac. So he's not arguing for the Christian God, although it might be a preface to arguing for the Christian God. I know Locke believed in the Christian God, of course, but his apologetics is not going to go very far in defending it. And in general, just his definition of knowledge as being of the senses of revelation with reason doing stuff, and not from revelation at all. A lot of people I know would say revelation is the surest knowledge, and that everything else is less sure than that. He says, no, it's not knowledge, it's just grounds for belief. You can believe it, but you don't know it. I think that's kind of not very fair. And like there's no knowledge of angels at all, and I feel like that's not a good attitude. Like Paul says, that you may know the love of Christ. That surpasses knowledge. The love of Christ would not be something you could know, according to Locke. You would just believe in it. But there's term issues there, of course. So yeah, the core idea is being just something like men have a field of knowledge. Yeah, I think Locke kind of comes to this at one point, pretty early on. I think that the reason that there's people disagreeing, and the reason why people get into philosophical debates so often is because they are stepping beyond the boundaries of their knowledge, which I think goes back to Descartes. There's a whole lot of Cartesian influence on this book. That the will extends beyond the knowledge, and that's why people sin. Well, Locke says, I guess a little bit differently, that when you try to extend your knowledge beyond its bounds is when you mess up, at least intellectually. And that's because knowledge is not an indefinitely growing thing. It's this thing that has very clear boundaries of sensation and reflection that can only lead you to certain kinds of things to know. You can believe other things, but you can't know it. And that has just a whole lot of implications about how you live your life. But one question I do have is like, what's the difference between a knowledge and a belief? If I know that, wax is hot when you put it by a fire, or if I just believe it, what's the difference? Functionally, I don't know if there's a functional difference. I don't know if there's a reason to talk about it. Maybe knowledge is like, we just don't doubt knowledge, never doubt knowledge, but maybe you can doubt your beliefs. And I guess that could be a difference. But putting all religious knowledge, though, into this doubtable thing, and all scientific knowledge into this certain thing, I guess Locke is kind of paving the way for the scientific revolution and the growing interest in science and diminishing interest in religion for several centuries after his life. Yeah, so that all needs to be thought out more, but that's a big core idea that I want to assert and help you talk about in session. And then synthesis, I have 2, maybe 3. And the first is the comparison between Plato, Pascal, and Locke. Plato says all knowledge is innate, at least early Plato does. All knowledge is innate. Pascal says some knowledge is innate. I think it does. The Holy Spirit grants certain axioms to believers and non-believers, uh, and they're functionally innate. I don't know if they're actually innate. And Locke says no, there's absolutely no belief at all that is innate. And I wonder about this. So that's the comparison. It's all, some, or none. And I'm going to say that they all have things that help understand the world. But I want to say that some things are innate because I'm looking at instinct. Animals know things, some pretty insane things by instinct. Like I should fly in this direction for these many miles and I'll get to this place. And we don't know how they know that, but they know it and they're not taught it, so it's innate. So that's just an example of that. And I don't think Locke sufficiently proves that kids don't have innate knowledge. Like he'll just say like, oh yeah, isn't it obvious that children don't know that what is and what is not is not? Is a true statement. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't really see any kids functioning as if what is not and what is not is. Ever. I don't even know what it would be like to function like that. It's just such a core belief. Like I can't imagine what it would be like for something to be and to not be. That's an unimaginable thing. I don't think that's something I could believe. Which makes me think that it's innate. Yeah, I'm sure Locke could defeat my argument really quickly and easily. Yeah, so I want to say that some things are innate. But even though some things are innate, they can be rejected and act like they're not true, and you can stop believing in them. That doesn't mean they're not innate. Like if I was born with hands, I might chop off my hands. It doesn't mean I wasn't born with hands. They're not essential to my being, but they're removable. So I think we have innate beliefs that can't be removed. Although what is, I don't know if we can remove that one. So I can't even imagine what that would look like. But I don't want to say that everything's internal like Plato does, because that makes it so like you're just like an introspective, selfish, prideful, I am the god of existence kind of a life. If all knowledge is wrapped up in me, I do like Locke's emphasis on the external. I need to rely on what's outside of me, and I would like to put that in a more Christian context than Locke does in this book. So yeah, I would take Pascal's path of some things are innate. Those innate things probably are direct gifts from God. Yeah, so that's my synthesis of those three fabulous authors. And my second synthesis, I'll wrap this up, is a comparison between Locke and Aristotle's view on happiness. Aristotle, of course, says happiness is fulfilling one's function. That's virtue, and virtue is the way to happiness. And Locke says, however, that happiness is like maximum pleasure. Having all pleasure all the time would be happiness, sort of the greatest happiness, which Aristotle does not say. And I can see things about both of those. I think we use happiness to be in reference to pleasure more than function nowadays. But what I want to say is kind of both, is that happiness is satisfaction, having your desires appropriately met. I don't know if that's maximum pleasure though. But I do say that the way that you would get that is by fulfilling your function. You want to be satisfied if you're not doing what you were made to do. So happiness is kind of both. It is very pleasing. I guess in the end, it's the most pleasing, the longest lasting pleasure, the pleasure with the most substance, satisfaction.